So, what do Grace Kelly, President Kennedy, and the Divine Comedy have to do with the hero archetype? Let's begin. Welcome to Real Life Archetypes. My name is Marina, and this is a place of rest from all the overstimulation of our times. So, welcome home. Today, I'm going to delve into the hero archetype and give you a few references just to get to where I'm going. So, Grace Kelly was an actress, an American actress, who had a very short career and got quite successful and famous in her time. And she went to marry a prince from Monaco. So she moved all the way from the United States to Europe for a life that was of quite an adventure and quite different, especially in the 50s, to have quite a regimented life. Imagine, a princess with all of the duties and the lack of privacy. And in 2010, in the middle of, a huge life crisis, I just stumbled upon an article in Vanity Fair. And there I found the following quote that really caught my attention. And she said the following, she was quoted as saying the following: "I know where I'm going to be every single day for the rest of my life." And so that to me really spoke to a state of mind of, confinement, boredom, just something that was flat there in her life. And she said that when she learned that one of her bridesmaids had been living in a shelter, she was strangely envious. And she said, "I know it might sound awful and insensitive, but the thought of just getting up every day and doing what that day brings you sounds wonderful to me in certain ways." Now, this is quite a statement to speak of her own life. And I wanted to go to another quote by President Kennedy. He wrote in a note to somebody that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in time of moral crisis, preserve their neutrality. And he wrote that on a note, I think, to compel maybe a peer or an adversary to take some form of action, political action. And this quote that I read, that was a couple of years ago. It was stated as quoting from The Divine Comedy, which is a classic of literature. And it caught my attention. I had never been compelled to read that book because, it was about hell or something like that. So I had to look it up because, curiosity. And it's not actually from The Divine Comedy, but it does reflect a part of The Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy has three parts. One is hell, which is called Inferno, and then purgatory, and then paradise. And it's about the journey of the protagonist, who is also the author, Dante, through, all of these stages. Now, hell is described as a place that reflects the life of sin and unrepentance of the souls that are being encountered there. And this quote by JFK actually refers to chapter 3 of Hell, of Inferno, which is called Canto number 3. And in that chapter, what is described is, getting to the first level, the first circle of hell. And there are 9 circles, I believe. I haven't read the book yet, but I'm starting to read it. And it's actually very, very compelling. It's quite amazing. And the thing is that in this part of the book, what happens is that we're not really inside of hell yet. We're right on the outskirts. And there, Dante is asking his guide, who are these souls that I hear wailing? And he's told, first of all, we see that there's a huge inscription on this threshold of the first circle of hell that says, "Abandon all hope, you who enter here." So just remember for a moment the quote by Grace Kelly. So, in that place of hell, which is not yet there, we find these apathetic and uncommitted souls. These are people who stood for nothing in their lives, who did nothing with their lives. They didn't do anything wrong, but they didn't do anything good either. And so they speak to the apathy, the lack of commitment. They didn't do anything. And as a punishment, they have an experience of hell, which is to chase eternally after a blank banner. So, blank. This is the idea that I want you to keep in your mind. And the blank banner represents the failure to follow any cause, good or bad. That's quite a statement. This is very interesting because it does relate to the hero archetype. I also want you to pay attention to this statement that was said by someone who wrote a book about somebody on their deathbed. And he said, this author said that the people who are on their deathbed mostly express regret for what they didn't do, for lacking the courage to take that kind of action. So this is where I'm going with the hero, because a hero is all about action. Now, we think of action heroes, of course, and this is an appropriate image because this is an archetype that is going to kick in terms of reminding you that there's something that you need to do with your life, that there is a seed inside of you, there's a potential that needs to fully unravel. That's what the hero is about. And I'd like to speak for a little bit about the hero's journey, which is a concept that was given to us by Joseph Campbell. And if you are not familiar with Joseph Campbell, I highly recommend that you explore his work because he has a very important and very compelling legacy for us, about his explorations. What he did was to study and delve into mythologies from around the world, and he found that there was one universal story within all stories, and that's an important concept, the universal, because an archetype is actually a reference to a universal human experience. So when we speak of the universal, we speak of something that relates to all of us for some reason. And to have archetypes, archetypes is also a symbol. A symbol contains a story that speaks to the universal human experience. And we're going to react to a story because somehow it relates to ourselves, to the way that we tell the story of our own lives. And stories are incredibly important. And we go to movies, we have TV shows, and a lot of people are very addicted to that because there's nothing that we love more than a story. So they are important. And Joseph Campbell gave us the structure of the hero's journey. I have replicated the structure here, but in very basic form. There are more stages to the hero's journey, but this is the essence that I want you to pay attention to. So basically, in every story, we are introduced to the hero, the main character, or, a group of them, but we're introduced to them in their ordinary world. That's their world at the beginning. There's a flatness there, okay? There's nothing going on really. So we find ourselves in that stage of, there's something is about to happen, something needs to change. And this is the call to adventure. This is where the adventure of the hero begins. And to me, this refers to the call of action, call to action, that something needs to happen. We need to take action. And this is a hero story. So it's going to require some level of courage. And we're going to have to step from the ordinary world into an unknown world. What is going to happen? This is important for the hero archetype because it's going to animate us at some point in our lives, and especially in times of crises, of personal crises, that there's something that needs to change in our lives. And remember how JFK spoke of in times of moral crisis, people who preserve their neutrality. It means that you don't react, you stay where you are. And the hero is all about not staying where you are, but actually stepping into the unknown. And here the adventures begin. There are many trials and tribulations, hopefully a transformation, and all of those steps for the hero to return. The return phase is extremely important because if we don't do that, there's no real fulfillment of the self. What does that mean? It means that for the hero archetype, the most important thing to understand is that there's a need for our engagement in our own lives and also in on a greater scale in the world. It speaks to the person, the kind of person that we are in the world and the things that we do and how we are fulfilled or not by our own existence. So the sense of adventure is to be in a state where we have some kind of excitement for life itself. It's a very, these are all very big concepts. That's why it feels so grandiose, but it really speaks to the way that we need to be involved in life and how are we really motivated. Is life something that we really want to participate in an individual way, but then also ultimately to bring something to the world. And the concept of the hero's journey is self-discovery. It's where we respond to this call that is telling us, hey, are you really the person that you really want to be, that you feel that you have this potential of fulfillment? And are you participating in the world in a way that you find fulfilling? So just notice how the return, we go back to where we started. This is an important concept as well, because the world is actually the same, but what has changed is the hero, and the hero represents the self, the most extreme self, the purest expression of the self, that is the part of you that really has a sense that is driving the way that you live your life and the things that you want to do, and a sense of purpose for yourself that will ultimately unite with the way that you want to engage in the world in general, in your world, and that is going to be exciting for you, that will feel that it matches this sense of higher purpose in yourself. So this adventure of the hero, it's all about taking action. It's about responding to the call, and it's about your state of being. Now, the hero archetype, in the way that I interpret archetypes, which is based on the zodiac, based on reading astrological birth charts of people. And I don't do it in a conventional way. I use archetypes because to me they represent more of a generic meaning, an exploration of the energies that we have inside that we may not understand. And we need to have some map, some understanding of what is going on. And there is a universal experience of the self. And I find that really interesting. So to me, the hero archetype is the first and the most consequential. It is the energy that you encounter when you wake up. As soon as you wake up, this energy that is there, that's the hero. And the hero will confront you and your sense of motivation and excitement about your own day. Because in the smallest form, the hero is going to be what you experience in a day. The day, your day, can become a hero's journey in itself because you're going to have a beginning and an end. And this can apply to a day, it can apply to any length of time, and it can apply to your whole life. So that sense of being motivated when you wake up in the morning, do you have a sense of higher purpose? Are you motivated? Is life exciting in some form? Are you going somewhere? So the hero is going to address the origin point, the essential point, the one that is supposed to drive you to strive for things and to want to do something, particularly something that you love that is going to turn you in the kind of person that is going to have this more fulfilling life than the one that the world has in store for us. And I want to go to, let me find it. Yeah, a quote from Joseph Campbell. He said, "We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned so as to live, as to have the life that is waiting for us." He was, dead on with this concept. He was always speaking about how it's necessary. And by the way, Carl Jung, the psychologist, that's another one that I have here. He spoke of that concept as well, because if we don't respond to that call, we end up living a life that over time we will feel that it's not ours, that nothing that we have experienced actually aligned with the true self. Now, obviously, life is not all about doing what you want all the time. There are many different kinds of dimensions of our experience that we have to attend to. We have responsibilities. We live in a world with other people. We have to sustain ourselves. There are all of these components. But for me, it is so essential to have an understanding that there is this original point where why is it that we don't actually have this awareness of saying, so why don't I go back to the basics, to, the first step, and say, why don't I allow myself to really go for something that actually motivates me? Because it's a question of order of things. It's not about discarding everything else, because of course, everybody has to pay the bills. We all have to live in the world as it is. We can't deny reality. And there are archetypes that will address all of those things. But the hero is the first one. And it is always there inside of us. You will recognize it in your own life. If you're not, if you haven't responded to the call, it will bother you in many ways. It can feel like apathy. So that, which we saw first, here referring to the Divine Comedy. And now just go back to this inscription there. Abandon all hope. Remember what Grace Kelly said. I know where I'm going to be every single day for the rest of my life. That is really a suffocating thought, to say there is nothing that is going to be exciting or new, because we need to evolve. We need to do things that are going to summon new capacities. This is what the hero is looking for. Now, not everybody has the same amount of the hero archetype. Not everybody has to go through, a huge, massive life crisis and awakening and things and like that. But we all have at least a little bit of all of the archetypes. This is obviously following what I do, which is archetypes based on the zodiac. What is important to understand is that for each of us, it's going to manifest in a specific form. It's not the same for everybody. But you can think of people that even, public figures that are very into action. Some people really like to jump off planes and do very dangerous things. That's an expression of the hero. The hero trying to, always push the self further to say, okay, what is it that I'm capable of doing? Because when you do that, what happens is that you become stronger, you become more confident, you become more assertive, and you have a greater experience of your own life, because you feel so much more capable that the original intention for what you want to do is going to be more and more pure. It's going to be more individual in the purest sense. It's going to come more and more from your spirit, because you will have eliminated more and more. And let me just go back to the structure here. This relates to the phases of transformation. When you eliminate more and more, the things that have been decided for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a question of always, throwing everything away. To me, it is about the order of things. This is something that is very important to me to explain, because I think it's very important to understand that we live and exist in the world. So it's not about rejection. In fact, everything is about the opposite of rejection. It's about loving life. It's about loving the world. It's about loving our existence, but it's about finding exactly what is the expression that is so unique to each of us that we are supposed to project, and the energy that we really want to release. What person do you want to be? Are you the somebody? I am the person that I really want to be. Do you really feel that way? So most of us don't feel that way. Most of us have been told, that we have to follow a certain path. We have to follow the references. You have to strive for this. You have to strive for security or for money or any combination of those. Nothing wrong with any of those. We are creatures living in a world where there is a reality. But again, this is about making one of these original choices right at the beginning to say, why don't I start with answering the call to adventure, responding to this thing inside of me that actually I would like to go there, to have a sense that my expression, my pure expression will be fulfilled because I'm going this way and not the way that I'm being told. Not necessarily. It can be in the end, but if it's your own decision, it's going to feel aligned with you. This is what the hero's journey is all about. It's about discovering more of who you are, what is your potential, what is the seed, and in the same way that you have the seed of an apple tree that has to become an apple tree, what is the seed in you that needs to become fully all that you can be? And so when we follow that, we will participate in the world in a way that is not only motivating for ourselves, but it's going to be way more positive for the world. And the concept of the positive is incredibly important for the hero archetype. And this is something that I will speak about more in the future, because the positive versus the negative, that's very, very important for the hero to make that kind of decision and the kind of person that we're going to be for ourselves and for others. So thank you for watching, and we'll talk about these things next time.